So let's start here today on the Ben Garcia Show with Baker Mayfield and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers pulling up an upset yesterday, really stunning the NFL world, getting quote-unquote revenge on the Detroit Lions for last year's divisional game, which, it's neither here nor there. I guarantee you the Tampa Bay Buccaneers would have rather won the first one than the one that took place yesterday, but neither here nor there. The Buccaneers have won. The NFC South is very surprising. The Saints look good. That's not really what I want to talk about. And I think it's very predictable what I want to talk about. But before I get there, the one thing you will get on this show, the one thing you will get on this channel, the one thing you will get on this podcast is honesty, transparency. I will never lie to you. And I'll admit when I'm wrong. I'm okay with that. I have harsh opinions. I swing for the fence. Sometimes I'm wrong. I don't get super upset about it. I don't become beholden to my opinion. Yeah, I would rather be right. Who wants to be wrong? No one wants to come on here and say, yeah, I whiffed on that. I got to be honest. This Baker Mayfield thing, I was so wrong on Baker Mayfield. Now, this version of Baker Mayfield, I was wrong on. The last version of Baker Mayfield, I was 1,000% correct on. There was way too much gamesmanship. It was more about him, not about the team. But then you think about it. Does Cleveland produce any good talent at the quarterback position? Baker Mayfield was clearly not talented, and I would argue probably still not talented enough to carry a dysfunctional franchise out of the depths of garbage into relevancy. That's not a slight on Baker Mayfield. There are very few quarterbacks that can do that. And I'm talking about all-time greats. I'm talking about Joe Montana, not to say that these players pulled teams out of garbage into relevancy, but I'm just saying these are the quarterbacks that would have the capabilities of doing so. Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, clearly. Patrick Mahomes, clearly. Josh Allen, clearly. It's those high top 5 guys, top 10 quarterbacks of all time status. Those are the guys that you think can pull teams out of garbage wasteland dysfunction into relevancy in an NFL landscape. It's a very short list. It's a very, very short list. Baker Mayfield, I would still argue now, isn't talented enough to pull the Cleveland Browns out of their you-know-what. Yes, he took them to the playoffs. That quickly spiraled down the drain. There's a reason why they shipped him off. Now, wrongly shipped them off, because if you ask this Baker Mayfield if you ask this Baker Mayfield player to go on this current Browns team, he would take them to the playoffs. Now, it wouldn't just be him. It'd be Myles Garrett, Amari Cooper, a lot of other things supporting him, including Kevin Stefanski and company. But the Browns are just going to be the Browns. The Browns took a guy with judgment, character issues, off-field issues, nonsense that I don't even want to get into that is so disgusting and profoundly awful, shipped him right into Cleveland and shipped off the guy that, yes, I had issues with, clearly not anymore, but I had issues with the play and the showmanship, things that can be molded and can be crafted into a player like what the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have now. You want to talk about a team that has judgment issues? Imagine bringing Deshaun Watson in, even at the time when he was still seen upon as an elite talent in the National Football League. The NFL and the quarterback position will always be about character. It will always be about leadership. Always, forever. That's never changing. Now, I don't think Baker Mayfield had character issues. I think it was just a little too much about him. And you could argue, Baker Mayfield needed to get knocked down a step. He needed to go to Los Angeles and get kind of figured out by Sean McVay and help retool and figure out how to hone in his craft. And then he went over to Tampa Bay, where he beat out Kyle Trask and has been a worthy successor to Tom Brady. Yeah, I don't think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are winning a Super Bowl anytime soon. But I've just got to be honest. Baker Mayfield might have the greatest career resurrection in NFL history. At the quarterback position, definitely. In the whole NFL, in the history of the NFL, just maybe. Because of the difficulty of the quarterback position. Because of what you were asking him from coming out of. Because you were asking him from being a backup in Los Angeles, from being the number one overall pick, from being a backup in Los Angeles, and then going over to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, in which you forget he got beat out by Sam Darnold for the starting job in Carolina. The only player that I can relate Baker Mayfield to, and it's because it's very close to home here in Phoenix, Arizona, is Carson Palmer. Baker Mayfield and Carson Palmer, both more athletic than you give them credit for, both number one overall picks, both asked to take garbage dumpster fire organizations from the depths of terribleness and garbage in the NFL to relevancy. Both did that for a brief amount of time. Both guys were shipped out. Baker Mayfield went over to the Panthers. Carson Palmer went over to the Raiders. It didn't work out. It took a little bit of time. And it took a stable-ish organization or a head coach that can help mold his craft into becoming a very productive NFL quarterback. I mean, if the MVP, and I understand it's just 2 weeks, but if the MVP was held today, Baker Mayfield would win it. Now it's 2 weeks. You don't want to get insane. But the career resurrection of Baker Mayfield should be studied. This doesn't happen. For every Geno Smith career resurrection and Baker Mayfield career resurrection, there's 1,000 other guys that never made it out of the quarterback graveyard. And Baker Mayfield did it. And very similar to Carson Palmer, is carving out a very nice career for himself. Carson Palmer is not a Hall of Famer, but he's pretty freaking close to being one. And Baker Mayfield, with all these weapons and understanding something that a lot of quarterbacks don't understand, the limitations to his own game and not taking all the money for himself and allowing it to be spread around so that he can still be seen as a very good quarterback in the NFL, to allow him to have the weapons he needs to allow the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to continue to be relevant. That takes real awareness that a lot of quarterbacks in the NFL just don't have. And it takes a lot, and it says a lot about the character of Baker Mayfield for coming back from the quarterback graveyard, from being the number one overall pick, from being told his entire life how amazing he is at football. At one point, when he got knocked all the way down, looked in the mirror and said, "How do I fix this?" And he fixed it. And it's very similar to the Carson Palmer career resurrection arc. Both number one overall picks, both asked to take garbage organizations and bring them up to relevancy, take them to the playoffs, get shipped off to a team that doesn't know how to use them, the Oakland Raiders at the time, and then the Carolina Panthers. Then they end up with organizations and coaches that can help figure out and manufacture their craft to the best of their abilities in the Arizona Cardinals and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It's something you really don't see a lot of. Even the Geno Smith thing. Geno has resurrected his career, but if you could have Baker Mayfield or Geno Smith right now, who are you taking? It's not close. And it just says a lot about the character of Baker Mayfield. And I was wrong on him. At one point, I told the guy he should retire because no one's going to want him as a backup, because you don't want your backup quarterback to be more famous than the starting quarterback. And that was the case with Baker Mayfield, who was on a commercial every 5 minutes when he was in his heyday in the NFL. I was wrong, and I'm okay with being wrong because the story is so fun to follow. And although I was wrong about Baker Mayfield, I am 1,000% rooting for him.